John, could you please call the roll? Carolyn Carter. Here. Tony Brooks. Here. Mike Marcus. Here. Glenn Ritter. Here. Hosfeld. Here. All right, we have a quorum. Do we have a motion to approve the October 5th, 2022 special call public hearing meeting minutes? Motion to approve. The second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I understand, since I wasn't there. So,
Hold the minutes. So. All right, do we have a motion to approve the October 5th special call city commission meeting minutes already there? Oh, yeah, no. Special call public hearing, sorry, and now we have the meeting minutes. Motion to approve. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
abstain.
Same. Okay, then we have a motion to approve the October 20th, 2022 city commission meeting agenda, except I do have one item, which is item B. I already did under all my other stuff here. Oh, I wrote it on my agenda now. It's ordinance P2-001, motion to accept budget commitment for the 2022-2023 fiscal year related to purchase of a mobile stage. We have a motion to approve it as to include it.
To approve it.
We have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, but passes. All right, announcements from commissioners. Bob, do you have anything? Mike? No, I don't have anything. Carol?
I would like to just make a sad announcement about a longtime Kingston president, Bill Tidwell, who lives on Patterson Drive, lived there for 60 years, and probably gave away hundreds, if not thousands of pounds of vegetables from his gardens to everyone that lived in the area. So it would appear on your doorstep, and he's a good friend. So.
Yes, night out was incredible to see the millions and millions of dollars worth of equipment placed at the Harvard High School. Our staff, our first responders, organizing this. It's always impressive to see the amount of support that came from so many agencies across the state, and yeah, the large turnout. It was fantastic, educational, hands-on. I loved it. So, yeah, thank you all.
All right, we can move on to community input and concerns. If you would like to address the commission, you can come up to the podium and speak, and you have 5 minutes in this case. We have a few people here. I think Don can set you a timer.
I don't think this will take any longer than 5 minutes. My name is Sandra Vide. I live at 246 Harpeth Hills Drive for the last 10 years. And I just want everybody to know that I have talked to Tony several times about this road. I've talked to John and Doris, and I've tried to talk to Chief Ivy. I may have talked to you in the past. I've talked to several police officers. According to the police, they don't have enough police officers to patrol this road, evidently. That's what I've been told. They don't have enough police officers to put a patrol out on this road. And then they have said, well, we'll put that rolling thing down, you know. Okay, so they've done that, but that might slow it down for wherever it is for 5 minutes. They put one up by me and took it down like 2 days later. I don't think it worked.
I actually have the data for that. I don't respond at this point, but I do have the numbers from when it was put up.
It was working because,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, so
And we did have an issue with it as why it was taken down further. But when it was first put up, it was working fine. And the issue has since been.
but it was only for a day.
What, I mean, typically you're going to get the same traffic because
Okay.
there's such a.
So cover the
residential
traffic.
area.
Number.
So the total number of vehicles, now this was for a period of 69 hours that it was set up before the malfunction. A total of 140 vehicles passed the trailer. 119 were traveling at 30 miles an hour or under. 15 were traveling at 31 to 35 miles an hour. 4 were traveling at 36 to 40 miles an hour, and two were traveling at 41 to 45 miles an hour. The fastest speed recorded was 44.
What road is this? Harvard Hills Drive.
Well, this is a cut through. This is a residential road that has been used as a cut through because they don't have to take the winding curves on 60 road. And I get it. You know, I mean, if they want to do that, that's fine, but they need to slow down and they need to adhere to the speed limit. So the speed limit where I live is 20 miles an hour. And I mean, today somebody just about hit me on that road. And he was going much over 25 miles an hour. But there's supposed to be no trucks. Big, large trucks, school buses go down this road. You know, speeding. The police speed down this road. You know, they don't pay the Kingston Spring department trucks go down this road and they speed. And what I've talked to Don for several years and Tony about is speed bumps. And I've had we can't do speed bumps on this road, can't do speed bumps. Oh, they'll sue you if you have a speed bump. The people sue you though, you know, because it hurts their car or something. Oh, maybe we can cul-de-sac it at the end of the road, you know, and I'm like, I don't care what they do. They need to get this traffic stopped. And speed bumps are really the only way to do it because of the cut through traffic. And all you'd have to do is put speed bumps on Upper Harpeth Hills Drive and to where the hill is and at the bottom of the hill. And then when you come in from Lubian Hills Road, there across from the gas station, a couple over there. And that's all you need to stop the traffic. And it would be much better. And a police officer needs to be sitting there. I'm a taxpayer. I pay city taxes. This is taxation without representation. And I'm tired of it. And the road needs to be shut down immediately. There needs to be signs up there. John put a sign up there. He put a sign that said trucks. Oh, I can get you a sign. Okay, trucks, and it was up incline. The sign disappeared. Okay, then he put another one over on CC Road. And I called him about this. Yeah, I talked to him, and it's just like deaf ears. Nobody does anything about it. And it's going to stop because if this road isn't immediately shut down to people except that live on this road, I'm seeing an attorney. The road is not wide enough. The road does not allow for safe travel on two-way for two cars. It's dangerous and it's illegal.
I think we've reached the time.
All right.
I apologize, but
You get it. So I want somebody to tell me and shut this road down right away because nobody except that lives on this road needs to be driving down this road.
Sandra, I'm sorry, what's your last name?
Bite.
Right, okay.
And I
Thank
believe,
you.
and just for reference, this has been a topic at retreat this year, I believe, and there are plans, I believe, where are we on that progress as far as putting this in place? You know, we have talked about barricading the end of that road in some way.
Yes, we have, and I pulled the, I guess the resolutions and the process that was done when Old Barn Trace was cut and closed, and plan to use that sort of as a guidebook of how to proceed as we move forward. So that's been taken care of, and I guess the next step is just to start moving forward.
Okay, you said something about, so you're planning on cul-de-sacing this road?
No, ma'am.
No,
Well, what is the,
it would, well, to not belabor this too much, it would be to shut the end of the road off, basically. So you just would, it would be not unpassable, it would be a removable barrier so emergency vehicles can access it.
The hill's too steep.
Yeah.
It'll be homeowners only.
Well, it would be anybody, the public street, anybody would want to go in there, but they would be stopped at the end and have to turn around.
It wouldn't be a thoroughfare.
You can't.
so you wouldn't be able to go, you wouldn't be able to go out to Lubian Hills Road.
You can't close a public street to public, but
So I don't understand this. So you're saying you're shutting it off. So I would have to go out on Upper Hills Drive, Harpeth Hills Drive. I would have to go out CC Road then?
Depends on where you live on that stretch.
So I live on the upper part,
Then you come down.
so the hill would be closed down. But why not just put speed bumps?
Well, possible. I mean, does anybody else like to address the commission right now? It's.
Yes, I'd like to admonish you, Tommy, yes, the moderator for abruptly cutting off a public hearing and not giving and asking if there was anyone else that wanted to speak. Nobody knew you had a limit until 7 o'clock. That wasn't announced. I've never been to a public hearing that was cut off. You should allow the public to speak and get into it. Are you going to leave open 60 days as usual for a public hearing, get written comment?
And we can possibly, we can do that. The issue was, of course, we have a 7 o'clock city commission meeting, so I call that.
Your meeting started at 11. Larry Craig, 159 West Kingston Springs Road. Tried to get information on your website, hoping it was something more than what I assumed was a PowerPoint put together by the consulting engineer. Is that correct?
I did it.
You did it, but is the information from the consulting engineer?
No,
The
just the math and the proposed estimated costs are from our wastewater engineering firm.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's obvious to me that there's a lot of damn fluff than the numbers for a consulting engineer. Take a look at that. It appears that they're generated for folks who are getting a fee. And nobody knows how this proposal first came to light out of the blue, in my opinion. No information as to how the liability will be released or the NPDES permit on a transfer. And I tried to go to the website. There's nothing beneficial on the website. You gotta go to Facebook. I don't do Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't do Facebook. Okay, so you need to look at it. Why isn't the budget on there? Why isn't the audit on there? Why are things important? Why wasn't this on there ahead of time? And we need to put out and generate what cities you did contact that have sold to wastewater systems and what their experience was. Now, you've got maps. You should be behind them. You should have an easement set of maps. I have a set here that I worked out for about 24 months to try to get all the easements and and got recorded in 1983, I believe it is. You should have a set of as-built construction drawings from the consulting engineer that shows as-built. Where they are, I don't know. And I was going to offer this to you. I'm not sure you want it, but you think it's too generalized, but it's more than apparently you've got otherwise. And I have an opportunity for you to save tons of money by taking city personnel, going out there, giving them perhaps out of a job assignment in the winter time, to go out with the GPS system and get the coordinates on what they can find. The septic tanks, the clean outs, the sewer manhole, all that could be done. You probably need a training session by an engineer, sorry, by a surveyor. And then you could take these base maps, get a new set of maps from the county assessor to put those coordinates on there. Saving all that money that's shown here in this consultant's estimate. But
Thank you.
Can you call me about that, when the date is on this? That you're gonna shut this road down, since I've been working on it for years?
Let you know, yes. Don, Larry?
If you think I was here, I would get some money for it. Okay. I agree with Larry about the webpage. That's really, it's not very good. Okay. We shouldn't have to go to Facebook to find out what the commission agendas are, what the commission minutes are, the budget. All those things should be, they are public information and they should be made available to the public.
I agree.
And they're not there now. If you go to the city's website right now, you'll find agendas from, I think, at least a year ago. And anything since then, it's not there. And I think you guys are better than that. And the other point I'd like to make is, as a disabled veteran, I wish you would get a sound system in here, because it's very hard to hear. Back here, what you guys are talking about amongst yourselves, it's again, it should be public information, and I can't hear what you're saying back here, and I'm sure a lot of them. But anyway, we're not here to beat you up. Do the right thing. Okay, guys, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is anyone else or move on? All right.
Just one question about the cert. Is there any legal reason that we couldn't share the output? Yeah, but that's just
No,
what I-
it's public in the package. Yeah, I don't think there is any.
Is so that the public got it?
Oh, no, I don't know the answer to
That-
that, but
that's
there's
what
no
I mean.
reason to prevent them from getting.
No,
it.
Right, I just want,
Maybe we should-
why we didn't discuss when the group was here, what the proposal was.
I just didn't print out 100 copies for everybody to have. I can put it out on the website.
That'd be really good. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we should do that. Right. We can move on. Right, department reports, Don.
Chief Ivy has something. First, there's a roadside mowing in Kingston Springs that Commissioner Clark wanted to speak on.
It was just, I've had a lot of people in the past 6-7 months talk about the tree trimmings markedly on Patterson Drive and on Sims Heights and on the roadway coming up to Ridgecrest Drive. I think though primarily, I think our streets are pretty clear except for the main roads, but those three have always been cut. They've always been trimmed. And I had people at the market when I was set up asking me about specifically those roads. And I think I sent something in June. I know you answered real quick and just said that the tractor was broken and that there was something that needed to be done. But it's just that the stuff is getting overgrown. And then I think I sent John something again in follow-up. And then I was told that Public Works doesn't do that. They only do the main roads. And that was news to me. And that was news to a lot of people who live in our area saying it's always been done. And I know in the packet, I think Cynthia Collins, who was, she's the wife of Sonny Collins, she's out beyond there. And she sent a very heartfelt letter about, you know, our roads have always been done. It was kind of a position of pride that the town always was so kept up. And she was wondering about that whole area that was annexed. And again, the promise was made when that portion of town was annexed to keep it trimmed and mowed like the rest of the city is.
Do you have any updates on when you can?
Well, I know Patterson was done today. I think there's some cleanup.
I started Patterson today and I got the typical tractor. I cut for 3 hours, we blew a hydraulic hose.
Thanks.
I'm just here to tell you, it's. We don't have the time to do all the side roads. We don't. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's a lot of work.
What's changed?
So are we talking about tree trimming or are we talking about mowing this right
Both,
away?
both. We have
It's
trees.
impending, trees are impending into the road.
And that's what was taken care of today. And just to clarify too, if you'll remember that we had discussed that we're going to hire out the mowing starting in the spring. And that includes the roadsides.
But I guess my question is, so what has changed?
As far as I know, nothing has changed. That my recollection, and as far as long as I've been here, we've just done the collector, which is West Kingston Springs Road, CC Road. That's all. Roger, have you mowed anything else?
But what I can cut with lawnmower, like that first little part, but that's it. I mean, I haven't cut all of it.
I know Mr. Waple's son, or Mr. Tidwell's son, Waple, used to be on Public Works,
Yeah.
and he's talked about, he did it all, that his side roads were his thing. He remembers doing all the side roads, that's what he is in Cheatham County right now. And I just, it's both, it's, you know, we had the problem with the Tennessee Valley paving, when they paved Ridgecrest Drive and they paved over dead grass and moss and leaves, and then it all washed away. And so the thing, having the roadsides clean, especially for things like that, it just needs to be kept up. I mean, I think that's, our town should, we shouldn't have to ask for that. It just should be. I think that throughout the years, it was always like, our town just always looks good. And now it's like people having to call and complain and stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yes.
people calling and complaining about.
This is a meet, at this point, it becomes a commission's meeting, and that's just the way it is. This isn't a conversation, I guess. Fortunately,
I was talking about,
yeah,
Since we're going to hire this out in the future, then right now, like I said, we just do the collectors. If there's additional roads that the board would like us to include, if we could get a list of those roads, that list of roads will go out in the bid requests that we look for mowing.
As you know, you did Patterson today, you know how bad and how much it
Oh.
was into the rest. I drive that as a school bus, it just rakes it.
Well, John, I thought, you know, I talked to John about that after we got this letter on this afternoon. I mean, that was, you figure from
That was a lot.
where I started to where I turned around and got to Mr. Tidwell, that's where the hose blew. That was 3 hours.
Yeah, that's about the end of it, though. I mean, then.
Yeah,
There's
somebody
more to
can
do
come
until
by.
you go up that corner. And back in, but yeah, there's some spots that are just.
It's spots of the roads. It's not the entire road.
So I think we're talking about two different things. We're talking about roadside mowing and we're also talking about tree trimming.
I guess that's tree trimming when you take the deck, and put it up.
That's what we were talking about. Is keep in mind, we can only do, I mean, 12 feet is as high as I'm gonna do it. That's
Yeah,
the safety of it.
That's.
At that point, I'm turning up and I can't see nothing.
my dad has never had his mowed since '99, but he always does it himself.
Yeah, I mean,
Mr. Bell's across the road from him.
I don't know. I don't know. My dad always, he likes mowing grass. And he,
And his doesn't ever grow over, but across the street at Lee Bell's, that does grow over on the road.
yeah.
All right.
add that things to look into in the mowing, I guess, when we look at for future mowing contract. Fine.
And then Chief Ivy had something. I think.
I just had a couple of things, one on fire, the National Night Out, has grown every year. I thought it was fantastic. We had an amazing turnout. I know Commissioner Remick was there and the city manager. It was really something to see. We had a helicopter, take off as a demonstration. Toward the end, we had Luca, our canine, which is the apprehension dog. We had him do an apprehension live demo, and we also cut up a car live demo. So we had 3 different kind of events that seem to be very popular, but it takes a lot of effort to put on those events. And I just want to thank the firefighters and the public safety officers that put in that time and effort, and the outside agencies that took the time to bring their equipment in to make it available. I mean, they literally, even Lifeline helicopter was allowing people to climb in the helicopter. I mean, it was truly a hands-on, amazing event. So I want to thank publicly the public safety officers and the firefighters and the support of the commission. And then on the police side, I want to speak a little bit about the license plate reader camera that we have in the budget. A couple have been installed. One has been online for right at a month. And that's the one that is on the south side of I-40, right at the corner of Harpeth Hills Drive. The other was just recently installed on the north side, which is on the corner of the westbound exit ramp, getting Live Hills. Since then, we only received 2 notifications of issues. Our first one was on October the 9th, was a stolen vehicle, which our officer Resendez was able to find the vehicle, get it stopped. which resulted in the taking both people in the vehicle into custody with cocaine, crystal meth, Xanax. I mean, it really is doing what we're looking for it to do. The second notification came this week. We were alerted that a violent sex offender had passed one of our cameras, which was just an information only. It was not something to make a stop, but it allowed us to get with the school resource officers and at least make them aware of this vehicle description is in the area. It was out of like County West up here, and I feel pretty confident it looked like from the camera. They went in the shell. I feel like they simply went in and then got back on the interstate. But it's that kind of information that it's letting us know of people coming into our community. Also,
You catching the ramp eastbound and westbound that's coming into the town.
it's catching. It's not
going
catching
out.
the ramp itself, like it's catching, if you turn right going up Loudon Hills,
Okay,
and then the other is catching to the right if you go down toward the Petra.
okay.
So, and we have several others that should be installed within the next month. The advantage to that is if they get off and it is a wanted person type situation, as they pass additional cameras, it texts all of our officers immediately. It gives us a picture of the tag, a picture of the car, and a map of the location. And I will tell you that these are not cameras. We can't log in. We do not have access to the cameras as far as we can't pull them up and look at live. So it's not that we're sitting looking, it's not a privacy issue. We're not sitting looking at the public. We're only being alerted. In that month's time, we've only had those 2 alerts. So I think they're doing exactly what the intent was for, and I want to thank y'all for funding that, because I think it's going to be a big improvement to the safety of the community.
It's just basically checking license plates against wants and warrants.
It is, and it updates every 6 hours. Now if we had something happen, armed robbery, we could put it on the hot list and it would immediately go in instead of waiting for that 6-hour update. So what happens is we take our reports, send in the TBI, and then TBI is the one that controls uploading the information into the system. So they do that every 6 hours. If we have something happen, whether it's a lost child, a kidnapping, a silver alert, we can put that into the system through the hot list where it'll immediately show up before that 6-hour upload hits. And it also allows you to share this with other areas. If they have a suspect vehicle, let's say Dixon has a suspect vehicle, and that vehicle got off our exit, it would alert them that that suspect vehicle that they're looking for got off our exit as well as us. So, it gives a lot of information that can be shared. And I think it'll really help issues as far as crimes happening in other areas close to us that may be coming back into our area.
Very good. It's great to hear. All right, we can move on to legal updates.
Mainly what?
No legal updates tonight. All right, unfinished business. We don't have any. Item A under new business. It's a discussion of request proposal. Or for proposal for potential sale of Kingston Springs sewer system. It's a familiar topic to us all. Everybody had a chance to read the proposal that was submitted from that, and this is the time to discuss it. Don, would you like to lead into this conversation with anything?
Yeah, I really don't have any additional information to add other than a couple of things. One is just to clarify with everyone, and I'm sorry, maybe should have done this while everyone was here, that getting a request for proposals seems like it might be putting the cart in front of the horse as far as this process goes. But I think the intent behind requesting proposals was one, to see if anyone was interested in purchasing our wastewater system. If nobody was interested, if we had received no proposals, then we would have been determined that that was not a course of action. So it would have narrowed down our only option. Because we've requested proposals and received proposals does not necessarily mean that we are on that track and heading in that direction. It was really a request for proposals just to see if that was going to be a viable option. So just because we requested them does not mean that we're heading down that path.
Those were your words from the beginning. So
Yes. So that's what we were looking at. Also, and I was really waiting on the discussion this evening. If you remember when Thornton's was coming into town, there was talk about the pros and cons of that, and we had put on the website a Q&A of this is Thornton's. These are the questions that we see that are being asked. I'll review the recording of this meeting tonight, and I'll do the same thing for the sewer proposal as well. Questions that have been asked this evening, I'll try to find as many answers as possible, whether it be condition of the system, potential funding options. We'll put the proposal that we received on there. So we'll put as much information and all the information that we have out on the website just as soon as possible. It'll take a few days to compile that and get it uploaded, but at least that will help as we move forward with these that are just discussions of the item.
Appreciate that. Yeah, and I think that's an important point, is this was, though it's kind of grown into this was a process of we knew we have an issue and we're trying to look at all the available options to solve the issue. And of course, sale of the sewer system is one of those options, and you all have had a chance to look at this proposal. I don't know our chance to discuss it. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, comments that you'd like to make as a board based on what we've received and the commentary from the public hearing that we've also received? So
I just wondered if any due diligence had been done.
Thank you. That was just, I forgot to mention that, yes, we had received names and contact information from about 3, 4, maybe 5 different companies that the company that submitted a proposal has been involved with. So I've made contact to them. I've got a phone call tomorrow morning with one of those. I've got a list of questions to ask them so I can get some consistency with the answers I received. Also done some due diligence with looking at I guess the different legal aspects of it, although I'm not an attorney, so please forgive me, but the legal aspects of the other acquisitions that this company has made, and have been able to find a few different docket items and briefs. One I sent over to our city planner today that the planner will be reviewing, and Martha Burke, I'll send that over to the halls. This company in South Carolina, and it also reflects this company in their dealings in Kentucky. So I'll also send all that information. Once I get all that compiled, once I get feedback from these people, I will send all of that to the commissioner in a packet. So you'll have all that. Hopefully middle of next week, I'll have some more information for you in that regard.
Commissioner Clark tried to speak just a second. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I've been told I need to talk louder. I think my concerns were voiced by a lot of people here today. Just the fact that looking into the infrastructure bill that got passed, and I think November 2021, there's a lot of sewer money in there for rural areas, municipalities, whatnot. And like I said, the point is, I looked at there was West Virginia got 75 million to provide clean drinking water and safe wastewater infrastructure to their municipalities in their state. And I think I've got the concern also too about the private entities not doing this to be altruistic. I mean, they're doing it if they have shareholders, they're doing it to make a profit. And if they do plan to expand, if they could force people who are not on it, yes, you must sign up, as what's happening in Franklin now. There's a private company that has done this, and there's people in litigation getting sued because they don't want to sign up. And Martha Brooke, I think there was a question too. If the sale does go through, we still are liable for the current liabilities that are out there. Aren't we? We will always have those liabilities. They don't go away.
Right, I mean, we would do our best to make sure we push as much liability off on them as possible. In fact, I talked with John, I'd already reached out to, Bill Penny, you might remember his name from when we got the River Keepers letter. He's an expert in this area. Realize we're gonna need some expertise to make sure we handle it all with dot our i's and cross our t's on permits and all that. He indicated, yes, this is in his wheelhouse, so he would be able to navigate us through this. But that was one of the things he and I talked about, is, liabilities. They're gonna want us to keep as much as possible, and we're gonna be wanting them to take as much
Or
as possible.
indemnify.
But worst case scenario, from the point of the transfer forward, that liability is obviously gonna shift on them.
For anything.
Did the company who gave the offer, did they send anyone here to actually get hands-on look at? And
Yes.
physically, they're fully aware of the condition of the sewer system.
Yes. They had boots on the ground.
How many systems have they purchased in Tennessee? Did I see 3?
Yes, sir, it's 3 or it's a handful, but not very many.
Okay,
And most of them are small,
yeah, they look like 130 some odd homes, really small.
Right.
Have they got, I can see by the numbers in their proposal, they've got a lot bigger areas. Would we thought about contacting out-of-state municipalities that are larger, maybe more similar our size, to see, what they say about the sale process and the service afterward and that kind of.
the person I'm gonna speak with tomorrow morning is, Savannah over in West Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yes, then it is, one of the, it wasn't a municipal service, but it was a private services company recently acquired in Savannah. So I'm going to speak with them. One of the contacts I tried to make today was a municipality in Missouri. The name escapes me right now, but it's a mixture. The contact info that I have is a mixture of small.
Well, the ones in Tennessee are pretty small right now, it looks like, but it looks like they've got a lot of customers, so they're gonna have some bigger ones that we
Yes.
can contact.
And honestly, Mike, the trouble that I've run into is I've asked the company that submitted the RFP, I've asked them for some contact information, and they've given me some contact information, which is great. You never know if that contact information has been cherry picked or not. So I've been trying to go out on and do my own research and find out what I can. However, it's difficult because the companies or the entities that they've acquired, then the contact information for those entities when they were the old ones.
The wastewater treatment gone away. right?
Yes, yes, sir. So it's making it a little more difficult.
Yeah, but we could contact the mayor, we could contact,
Yes.
somebody on the city commission or council, whatever they call it, in those locations. Because
Right.
they would have memory of the sale if it's fairly recent past.
Yes, yeah, we can do that with the
And they would have
municipalities.
experience with them for a few years, maybe after the sale is made,
Mhm.
which would give us some insights. We don't have to talk to them necessarily to the water people if they aren't there.
Right,
We could go with the city, the mayor or the city commission.
right.
All right. I guess one other question I had, there's several people voiced the concept of what could be done with any excess money we might receive over and above the debt that we owe on the sewer. Could you look into that to see if there's any options to return that to current customers? I mean, part of the problem when you get into that is how do you refund customers who paid a lot of years and moved out of here? I mean, I don't know how you get into that problem, where somebody was on the sewer, they paid for years and then they moved. You could say, well, only current folks that are paying into the sewer, but do you have any obligation to consider those in the past? I don't know. I mean, refunding that stuff directly to the customers would be, would have some issues. So I'd like to kind of know, is that even possible?
So initially, no, initially, and we spoke with the auditor about this as we were doing our research, that any profit from the sale of the system it's required by the state law that goes into the general fund. However,
Well, I understand that, but I
Yes.
mean, we got control of the general fund. If we wanted to make refunds to people, that's my question. Is it legal for us to do it out of the general fund back to the folks? We set up a line item, we say, okay, here's X number of dollars, 700,000, $1 million, whatever it is that we would clear on it. And then use that to subsidize the rates going forward. Is that legal? Or would it be refunds to users? And if so, over what time frame?
Right.
Those are the questions that, that if you're gonna do it practically, can you even do it legally? I mean, there's my question. I don't care where the money goes. I mean, you can earmark the money for what you want. But if it's legal to do that, and it may not be, they may say, well, you got to put that money in your general fund and use that for benefits of living in the city. I don't know. But is it even possible? Is it legal? And then what are the constraints that we have if we decided to go down that road?
and yes, I agree. That's something most definitely to investigate. We also thought of similar but different option rather than, let's say that, just to throw a number out there, that the town was going to sell the sewer system. We owe $100 on the sewer system. We have $100 in debt, so they're going to give us $200 for the sewer system. We're going to use $100 in debt and we'll have $100 in profit. Is it potentially an option for us to say, okay, you're going to give us $200 for the sewer system? Part of that contract and that negotiation is that you give us $100 for the sewer system, but you, as your new entity now, sets up that other $100 in a fund that then goes to your new customers that are just in this system to help remediate any increases in their rates. So that might be the same outcome, but just a different
Well, we currently have that secondary meter program. I have one of those. So I overpay during the summer months when I'm watering, and then they take a reading and they send me a refund check, for those overpayments that I'm paying on the water that really is in the sewer fund that I'm not using. So we already have a method to refund some of those. I mean, we're doing that. I mean, I'm sure that's legal. My question is, would it be legal to take the money and do that, or ask the supplier to do it? Not a bad idea, either way.
That's part of your negotiations. You should put that in the contract.
Yeah, okay.
That still leaves you any excess profit to figure out what.
I have a question on, we got the offer for. But I don't have any way of gauging, is that a fair market value offer? What is this worth? I mean, I know what they offered us, but. What's the judge on what the sewer system is worth? How is that assessed?
The example that I use, I oversimplify things in my head so I can understand things. If I have a truck and I love that truck, and that truck's worth $1 million to me, it's worth $1 million to me. If I want to sell that truck and the only offer that I get is for $500, that truck's worth $500.
So the sale could be potentially way undervalued.
Yes. Basically, like anything else, it's what you have is worth however much someone is going to pay for it.
But flip side of that is we kind of have a ballpark idea, a real solid idea of what it costs to do the first step, which is to map it and scope it. That's $2.7 million. We don't have any idea what the second step is. We got to guess. It could be better than that, and it could be worse. Hopefully, it's better. But the point is that how much current debt you have, and we have some. What your liability is staring you in the face, and what your revenue is. And right now, it's not a business that I would buy. Not looking at those numbers. Now, they may look at it and say they want to buy it because they can scale it, or they could go out to the ranchettes and run pipe and get folks signed on out there. They may be looking at that. We don't have the opportunity to do that as a municipality. We're limited by the city limits. They are not. So if new development is going on somewhere, they could get in the game on that if they could get the water to the treatment plant. So I don't know what it's worth to them. I know in our case, it's a tough road. Looking at it from a business perspective, I wouldn't do it on it.
I think Mr. Craig had some good ideas though about, you don't necessarily have to spend the 2 million, that we could. Do like our road surveys. We didn't want to pay Collier $20,000, so we're doing it internally. I think that is something that we could look at as well. It doesn't have to be $2 million to pay. I don't know if those ideas have any viability.
The manpower hours involved in that are gonna be massive. So we could have with our current staff, we could start, and that's what we've taken the system, we quadranted it out. So it's like, how do you eat an elephant? You take small bites out of it. So we start down here and we go as far as Main Street, and then we scope is everything that we could possibly scope. And then we go to the second quadrant, third quadrant, that kind of thing. But there is so much line that the manpower hours to do that are going to be extraordinary. With our staff, it could take 3-4 years before we could ever get to all the pipes in the town of Kingston.
Scope is only 600 feet long, so you got a mess.
There's mapping where the pipes are, and there's mapping inside the pipes. So there's two different, there's scoping into pipes, and there's mapping where the pipes are.
Fine,
There's two different way sheets. There's two different systems. So,
Sharon.
Yes, I have a brief comment for Commissioner Clark and the rest of the commission on that topic. The McPherson property on East Kingston Springs Road needed to know where the sewer line was for this project. I don't know how many man hours were expended in having to hand dig that, because at some point when they expanded East Kingston Springs Road, the sewer line went under it. They didn't know if it was under the sidewalk, they didn't know if it was under the pavement, because TDOT was in control of that project, did not supply plans to the city that would reflect where that line was. So it was hours and hours and hours of digging by hand to physically locate the line in order for them to establish where they needed to connect in to the sewer system. And we had little control, partially because the right of way belongs to TDOT. And so they had to have permission to get anywhere near them. So we've got data that justifying where it's sort of kind of located on what portion of the road. And then they will have to discover the rest of it as they put it in. So that occurs all over the city. So scoping it doesn't tell you where it is on the ground, it just tells you the scope runs. So it's going to be a difficult, I know you remember, it's been probably 10 years or so, we've been discussing this off and on in the city about getting a GIS map with students from Austin P to get that work done. So to answer your question, Commissioner Clark, if you're not accurate, it means the difference between a shovel and knowing where the line is, GPS recognized points. So that's going to be the quality of the work is as important as the time it takes to do it.
But CNC wouldn't have that same problem then?
No, because if you put Austin P or a company in the field, their geolocators are so much more accurate than anything that we can have access to or afford to buy. They can literally pinpoint it down to the inch.
they're scoping it, it maps it.
And yes, they can map it. And then they can not only map that, they can geolocate those points so that if the development comes in, they can put their finger exactly where that pipe is on every inch. It costs less to have it done that way than just to hire it out to a company who does GIS location, just as a retail company rather than the university who does it. But it's still, it's a huge number of hours to get that done. Even with students to do that. And part of the reason why you have some lines located is because they did a very short-term project, probably 2013. And even that took the entire summer.
And we have one man shop, now it's down to kind of a half a man, a woman down.
And to maybe this point that just throwing it out as an option that, as I mentioned, we were looking at different quadrants and sometimes you can do an exploratory section and then potentially extrapolate from that to see if it's worthwhile pursuing on a larger scale. So as in, if you got a grid of 9, then you do 1 or 2 of those boxes, scope, explore everything, and then see what you find in 2 of those boxes. Maybe you go to a third, but from that data, then you can understand what you might project to have as a whole. So the investigation money is a lot smaller than the potential repair money. The potential repair money is a great unknown, where the investigation money is a little more solid, I think. So we could perhaps investigate a portion of the system just to see where we pan out. I mean, if you look at unicorns and rainbows, there might be one big old hole in the system somewhere that's just absorbing all kinds of water. Most likely it's 10,000 little holes all over town. But just throwing that out there as an option that it might be, something to think about that would not cost as much money and give an idea of what you might look at in the future.
That'd be good, bit of diligence, maybe just be able to tell people that this is what we've done, this is what we've tried.
So we're gonna put this proposal on the website.
Yes.
Can I ask, how much is it? How much is the proposal?
How much is it? I mean,
What are they proposing?
Sorry, we'll make it part of our conversation. Would someone like to talk about the proposal? Theoretically, John, we're not supposed to do,
I understand, it just,
John, would you like to?
Yes, so the town of Kingston Springs right now has $750,000
Approximately.
in debt. That's paying off the remainder of our lagoon that was built because of the director's order from TDEC. The proposal that we've received is for $1.5 million. So we would use half of that to pay off our debt, which would leave us $750,000 in profit for the system. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? We're having our sewer discussion right now. We'll move on to item B, which is first reading of ordinance 22-008, notice requirements for Kingston Springs Board of Zoning Appeals as recommended by the Kingston Springs Regional Planning Commission.
I can start with this if that's all right, Mr. Mayor. So, and I'm going to read just to make sure I capture everything, and I've got an example too, that this relates to the public notice and our zoning ordinance that was updated last year in ordinance 21-001. That changed the advertising link and the signage for both the Board of Zoning Appeals and for any zoning changes to parcels. So as we work through this zoning process with these updates, we found that some of the ordinance changes have resulted in an extended delay for the applicants, specifically with the Board of Zoning Appeals, not by changing any zoning of properties, but by applicants trying to appear before the Board of Zoning Appeals. That's in section 8.070C. That deals directly and specifically with the Board of Zoning Appeals. The Planning Commission considered and recommended lowering the newspaper publication date or time requirements from 15 days to 7 days. And then removing the signage notice requirement related specifically again to the Board of Zoning Appeals in item 2 of that section. So while the advanced meeting notification and signage is a necessary requirement for any property zoning changes, that type of appeal is not heard by the Board of Zoning Appeals. The Board of Zoning Appeals primarily hears appeals that deal specific with the property in question with minimal to no impact on the surrounding properties. As an example, with the newspaper advertising, and this is a recent example from yesterday, we had a request for the Board of Zoning Appeals that I received yesterday. The cutoff date for our paper circulation is on Thursdays. So I received it yesterday, was unable to, of course, make it to today's cutoff date for the newspaper to be published next Tuesday, because I have to get an email out to all the Board of Zoning Appeals members. We have to settle on a date and a time where everybody's available. So hopefully I can have that done by next Thursday. That will be in the following Tuesday's newspaper. And then we need to wait 15 days after that before we can have that meeting scheduled. So all of that totaled comes out to 28 days. So if someone applies for a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, then the minimum is going to be 28 days in this particular case. So even if we reduced it to 7 days rather than 15, we're still just cutting off probably a week. We're still looking at somewhere between 18 and 21 days for a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, which is still a long time, but less than a month. Also, as far as the signage in front of the residences that are going before the Board of Zoning Appeals, again, they deal with items that are usually very just specific to that parcel, whether it's a topographical hardship that would allow them to go before the board to do something that they might not be able to do because of zoning. Because of the items the Board of Zoning Appeals hears, we don't feel the signage is necessary. This change only affects this section of this order that impacts the Board of Zoning Appeals and not as a whole any type of change in zoning to a parcel.
A and B are in place.
Correct. Yeah. And even with the Board of Zoning Appeals, there was a third component that was a certified letter that was sent to the neighboring properties, and that remains in place even with the Board of Zoning Appeals.
The one thing that I was, when I was reading this, it made me think that this is perhaps missing from A and B is that there's no timeline on the certified letter. If that should be like 7 days, I think, instead of just, otherwise, notice of public hearing shall be sent by certified mail, return receipt requested. And it doesn't say when, they can mail the day before, the day after, so I'm thinking that might have to say 7 days. And we might have,
What if we say notice of public hearing shall be sent by certified mail, return receipt requested no later than the same day that it is sent for publication to the newspaper?
I think that would be wise because
Because we don't have any control over when the mail would deliver or when they went to pick it up.
right,
So we don't need to type their receipt. But if we can show we've set it out.
That makes sense.
that makes me think we might have to do that to A and B though, and go back now and revise that. What they were.
On the part with respect to the zoning.
Yeah, it doesn't have date.
We can take a look at that. And I think it would be fine to add that into it. It's not a, planning commission had said, we agree with doing this. That's not really a substantive change. So I think we would be fine with making the change to this in front of us without sending it back to the planning commission. So.
I think that makes sense. You need a motion?
Yes.
To approve it, I make a motion, we approve this amendment
As
as outlined with Carolyn's. With
the new language in it.
the letter being sent same day as the newspaper notification. Okay.
Second.
All right, is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes. All right. Item C is first reading of ordinance 22-009, amending Title 1, Chapter 4 by amending language contained in sections 1-405, 1-407, the Kingston Municipal Code, adding section 1-412.
This updates the municipal code to codify the ability of officials, employees to accept small gratuities under $50. Right now, the town as a whole, as an example, could receive a box of chocolates. However, if someone wanted to give a box of chocolates to Ms. Doris could not accept that box of chocolates. She would have to say, I can't accept it, but the town can accept it. She couldn't keep them. She'd have to put it in the kitchen and I would eat half. So that's basically what this is. Sorry, I lost my place. However, you'll see in the ordinance, there's no guidelines on a consideration of accepting any type of gratuities like this. And this really codifies that. The ordinance also adds an element found in other municipalities that allows the officials and employees to use town facilities like the pavilions and the activity center at no cost to the employee if it's for personal use and has advance approval from the city manager. There's also still language in there that's pretty specific as to how you can and can't and accept gratuities. So we feel like that anything under the $50 range, again, box of cookies or flour or something like that. If somebody wanted to thank an individual, not specifically for doing a job, or for sure, and this language is in there as well, persuading them to do something. But a thanks for their generosity as being a human. That's what this is about.
And you added the clause about just generally avoid the appearance of impropriety.
Yes. Yes, that's in there.
So you need a motion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, need a motion. Make a motion, we make the changes without one by John.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And motion passes. All right, item D is first reading of ordinance 21-2-010, amending Title 3, Chapter 1 of the Kingston Springs Municipal Code related to court cases, litigation tax, and forfeiture, and to correct certain other provisions.
This is work that Kelly and Martha Brooke have worked on, and I'll move forward with Martha Brooke.
So you will remember, last year, year before last, forgive me, the last 2 years have been a blur. But at some point, we amended this part of our municipal code specific to court fees, litigation costs and things like that. Ms. Reed attended a conference recently. We got some more updated information. And so she brought that to my attention, made some suggestions just to bring these up to speed. And so what we did just to make it a little cleaner, we basically took what was already existing and dropped it in. So we tweaked things like pronouns and things like that. So rather than saying we're going to change this he to he/she and outline that specifically, we're just replacing all the language with what you see in here. Things that you will probably particularly be interested in rather than pronouns will be bond amounts and things like that. Those have your charter specifies that the judge can set a bond amount, can't go over $250. So you will see the language that mirrors your charter in 3-108. Also, you will notice the court cost in 3-111. Court cost will be $146.50, adding also $1 that the administrative office of the courts collect, state litigation tax of $13.75, etc. Subsection B also has a separate court cost of $50 if you have somebody that has been charged with a violation for vehicle equipment, and so the judge can order that be paid, that $50 amount will be paid. We also got forfeiture sections in 3-112. Those have been tweaked and updated. Now remember, all of these, we can only charge what we can extrapolate about what our court costs are. Ms. Reed spent some time figuring that out, and these appear to be, she's got justification for all these. So once we have justification, then we're going to charge those. Did I get any, did I miss anything? Cover everything?
And all this has been covered with Judge Maxson.
I'm sorry, you said all of it, it has been covered.
All right, is there any, or do we have a motion?
Motion to.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any further conversation or discussion?
Roll call.
Yeah.
Don, could you please call the roll?
Carolyn Clark,
Yes.
Tony Gross,
Yes.
Mike Hargis,
Yeah.
Glenn Remick,
Yes.
Bob Feller.
Yeah.
All right, motion passes. Item F is reviewing and awarding bid for purchase of mobile stage.
So through resolution 22-007, it authorized the application for a rural business development grant for the purchase of a mobile stage. Project being estimated at $80,000, $50,000 for the grant, and the town adding the additional $30,000 for the purchase. The town was awarded the grant in July, and bids were then requested. They were recently received. We received 2 bids. One is from Eurostage. They came in at $91,185. The other is for Stage Line. They came in at $116,920. There are not a lot of companies that make these types of stages. As a matter of fact, either of these companies that we would choose to go with, should we choose to go with any of them, we're still looking at first to middle of second quarter of 2023 before the stages are available. So They're not necessarily one-offs, but they're certainly not a lot on the lots. We also have been monitoring gov deals for used stages and a used stage line stage that was 5 years old, recently sold in Florida. We would have had to drive down there and pick it up, but it recently sold in Florida for $80,000. I'd also like to note that these stages are, when we initially were looking at applying for this grant, we to estimate the costs that we might be getting into, we had asked for some quotes just to see how much these things cost. The Euro stage was 12% lower in June, and the stage line stage was close to 20% lower in January. So costs have gone up somewhat considerably just over the last several months. If still proceeding with this process, the staff recommends the Euro stage bid of $91,185. That overage of $11,185 from the initial estimate would be allocated from the plan would be to allocate from the farmers market designated funds and the current Parks Department project line item.
So those already included in the budget.
If you'll remember, we had initially had the $30,000 in the budget at first reading. The board opted prior to second reading to remove that $30,000 because we weren't sure if we were going to receive the grant or not. Removing it with the thought of putting it in the budget again if we did receive the grant. So that 30 would need to come from the fund balance. The additional $11,185, I believe we've got $8,000 coming from the farmers market designated fund, basically the farmers market money market, which would leave a balance of about $5,500, $6,000 in that designated fund. And then the 8, 11, the additional $3,185 coming from what already budgeted in the Parks Department.
How does this tie into, we had a discussion yesterday about all the money that's going to need to be spent on an emergent basis with the pond?
Mhm.
And just, can we put this off? Can
A contractual agreement with the Department of Agriculture. So I would have to defer to Martin Brook. We would have to look to see what contract we had. We've made certain agreements to them that we would withhold or would uphold our portion.
is it there a time limit on there? Or
And we applied for the grant saying we would
hold
pay
our
the
end of
difference.
it.
We passed a resolution to that effect, assuming that it came within a certain ballpark. And you always retain the option not to, but it would have to.
We said if we got the grant, we do the balance basically.
Yes, we specifically said we would do the balance of $30,000, but as you can see, it came out like a little more than $11,000 more than.
To specifically answer your question, I would obviously want to pull that back out and try to come the lines to give you an answer, but yeah, you all did commit.
Okay.
We committed to that, but of course we did come a little higher than that still. So there is that.
We are obtaining a wonderful asset in this purchase.
And I mean, for the farmer's market, I mean, the farmer's market will be a sole benefit of this item. So for it to come out of the farmer's market, I mean, not the sole, but it will be a large benefactor to it, I assume, for Saturdays.
We would use it at the farmer's market, maybe not every Saturday. But yes, we would definitely use it at the farmer's market. We would use it for the events that we have now, and Brandy and I have already talked about adding additional events to the park, music in the park, that kind of thing. The manpower and materials that it's nowhere near $80,000, but it adds up. The manpower and materials that we use to build stages. Roger and those guys do an excellent job of building those stages, but it adds up.
We're
What's the,
looking at increased, I think I asked Brandon for increased costs. I know there's trusses up there with light cans and whatnot. Is,
In the future, yes. So that the purchase of stage would be the first thing as we look at maybe next year or the year after that, we would look at putting some lighting
so
up.
it's not gonna be instant, yeah, we need to get this now.
Right. Right.
So what we're looking at here is buying the box, it rolls around, right?
Yes.
What's the lifespan of the box?
I believe the lifespan's 20 years.
Lifespan, no.
I guess it depends on how often you use it.
Yeah.
How it's
1 year, you don't mean it's worn out in a year.
No, I said 20 years.
20 years.
Yes,
Okay,
years.
I
More than
thought-
you.
I thought you said one.
More than you.
That's pretty.
If we were taking it to 500 miles away, that would certainly limit it. But from our usage of it, if we're not going to be moving it from point A to point B, and if we do move it from point A to point B, we're going 3
You're
miles.
gonna station it where the farmer's market is and then move it for the other event. that you
Yes.
Do, this body of it, okay. All right, so you need a motion?
Yes, sir.
All right, I make a motion that we approve this expenditure and buy us a mobile box.
You'll need to specifically say which
The-
bid. you-
Oh, the Euro stage box.
Euro stage, mobile stage, there you go.
It's gonna last me 20 years. Maybe need too tired.
Bob's already saying it's gonna outlast you, so.
Yeah, well, he's right about that.
All right, do we have a second? Is
Second,
there any further discussion? John, can you call the roll?
Oh, yes. Carol Clark,
Yes,
Tony Gross, Mike
Yes.
Fargo,
Yes.
Lynn Ribbon,
yes.
Bob Stoller.
Yeah.
Mike, you want fries with that when you order up that?
Okay, and then, I remember the discussion item, mailbox replacement on Wyman Hill Road, Commissioner Clark.
I was looking at the progress, at Lincoln Hills, and it looks great, and I can't wait for it to be done with the trees and whatnot, and as it starts to look good, people I think are really finally not ridiculing it so much as they are
You
tonight.
haven't been on Facebook.
Yeah. But I looked at I know the businesses have had quite a hardship because they've had to go to get their mail every day at the post office because the rural mail carrier can't deliver because the boxes are no longer flush with curbside. And looking at the boxes that are right up by El Jardín and Matco, there's like 5 or 6 kind of misshapen, really rural looking kind of hick mailboxes that are all dilapidated. And I thought, what a good time this would be for us to take some initiative and it's almost like a thank you to the business. So as a one-off to these businesses that have been impacted by this, having to go get their mail every day for the past 4 or 5 months, to put up mailboxes that would be at the entrance to our city, that would all be a cohesive look to them and all be in front of their own businesses. Or and the alternative, I spoke with the mail carrier there, Joe, I think is retiring, so I did speak with the postmaster about putting up some CPUs, like say where Matco is, they have their mailbox down off of the road, they got permission to do that, so put a CPU down there that was nice and brick, and you could have all 6 of the businesses on that side, and then one on the other side, which can have all 4 of the businesses. That just would be a great look for the town instead of kind of a misshapen this white metal mailboxes. I think I included some pictures of the ones that could go into just on the street side and then the CPU ones, which would be brick. And I just think it would be a good investment since we are investing a lot of money in the multimodal, have it look good. I think we could go maybe one step further and have the entrance to our town look really good.
Where would something like that stand? I'm not sure what the protocol around mailboxes are.
Can't purchase, while it's a great idea and understand aesthetics, and the town definitely has a vested. It would be purchasing something to the benefit of the private individuals. I don't think you could make the public service. Spending public funds for a private individual's mailbox.
Could we research it maybe?
I'll be happy
Just to,
to
yeah.
research that further, but generally spending any money on the property. If it's not to repair damage that you die,
Right.
generally that is. If there's any other loopholes.
Maybe just go around and talking to business owners, we'll see if they'd be interested in doing that in this. I don't know if they would.
You know, the Chamber of Commerce is not cheap.
See about that.
You know, they may. have maybe a little bit more free and being able to come up and find something like that for beautification. When you start spending tax dollars on things, it's extreme.
Harold, do you have any students contact?
I do not.
Okay, I'll get it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You do the culture or two, you do the whole thing. Yeah.
Well, I was actually,
You do the culture.
Sharon, I was thinking about the awards, or the garden award thing. I don't know what all goes, I don't know. That might be a way to encourage some of that kind of activity.
It absolutely would, and you have also, if their mailboxes are damaged because of activity for the multimodal project, you might be able to replace what they had. You know, if there was.
I don't know that the town would, but
Town-
the contractor who responsible.
Right.
Well, it's not so much of their damage, that's because they're totally inaccessible now, they have to be replaced.
Yeah.
Because they're just not in the right spot anymore.
But I think that they're not in the right spot anymore, because they have an existing mailbox, and the contractor. Move them for them, but as far as purchasing, you can't provide a benefit to one hundred, so subject not provide everybody, and you're actually prohibited from doing them anyway. Because it's what type of mailbox and it's located, all the post office.
Right, I thought they were above that, so, I know, I in my proposal, we have to definitely talk to the postman and whatnot, but we're okay to see where the route we have to go. Is this something in judgment through the Chamber of Commerce?
Well, I was also thinking about that. I mean, just a way to encourage people to, like, there is a beautification. Explain, because we.
It's the master garden program.
Yeah, the
in Noble County,
Yeah.
but I think Dr. Norquist has come 3 years in a row to ask you guys to participate
You
in.
became two.
And look, I know it became like 5 years ago when you were here. But he's been here before you twice. But they have some funds that they get, in cooperation with the chamber. And they have been able to do some kind of entrance, improvements for people and they really done.
Yeah.
Is there any timeline, John, on getting the Comcast poles down?
Yes, I spoke with the gentleman yesterday or the day before. They transferred all the fiber optics, so the lines on the pole are dead now, ready to be removed. His crew looked like they were going to, at least this is what he was telling me, he has no control over this, but he was told that the crew was coming in sometime on the 25th, I believe, to take the lines off of the poles. So once the lines are off of the poles, then we contact Dixon Electric and get Dixon Electric scheduled to remove said poles.
Awesome,
So it's moving,
thank you.
yeah, moving quickly.
Very good. Okay, then the last item we have on the new business is ordinance 22-0011, motion to accept budget amendment for 2022-2023 fiscal year related to purchase of the mobile stage. We just did.
So a copy of the ordinance is included in your meeting binders there. So with the acceptance of the rural development grant and then the acceptance of the bid for the mobile stage that we just did, we need to allocate funding for this purchase. So as you remember, as I said, that the $30,000 that was going to be the match for the town was initially in the budget. It was removed from the budget because we were uncertain if we were going to receive the grant at that time, with the thought that if we did, we would add it back in. So we have, so that needs to be added back. And then again, there was $11,185 of additional funding that was a price increase. So what it looks like, and is mentioned in the grant, then we would receive $50,000 as revenue for the grant, and then we would pull $30,000 from fund balance $8,000 from the farmer's market designated fund, which is basically the farmer's market money market. And then the remaining $3,185 will come out of the Parks Department project line, which is currently allocated in the budget. So that's why your ordinance shows $88,000, because that $3,185 is already in.
Do we have? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance 22-011.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? Anything else? John, call the roll.
Carolyn Clark,
yes.
Bonnie Brooke,
Yes.
Mike Hargit.
Yes.
Glenn Murray.
Yes.
Bob Phillips.
Yes.
All right. Under surplus, we have a refrigerator in the activity center to recycle for credit. There's a motion to recycle for credit.
Make a motion, we recycle for credit.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Then under, there's one on other discussion that we might as well have, because everyone does have a copy of this, this permit applicants, in the inner packet, and just because we have, oh, did you have-
Mayor, let me jump into, I'm sorry, beginning, we were approving the agenda, my brain was still unwrapping some of the things we had heard in the public hearing. I do need to pull you guys into attorney-client privilege session, with regard to, litigation. So after we discuss this item that we've got here for this other discussion, I would like to.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I think this, so the reason this was put in is because I believe there were some complaints around the issuance of this, and I thought in case this was something that came up today during the public hearing, it was mainly for your benefit to know that there was, I guess, Bob, you would run into an issue related to this, and so you have an idea of what the process was. And with Sharon, would you like to just speak briefly?
Very briefly.
Just so we can make sure this.
We received a complaint about working without a permit on a lot in public meadows. We responded to that, found that they were regrading the lot. They removed all the landscape material on one side of the house, most of it in the back. There were three pretty substantial piles of dirt that had been brought in for grading. And I believe the process went as follows: they came to City Hall after they needed a grading permit. John said if you're changing the elevation or anything on the lot, yes, you have to have a grading permit. So they left, went away. And then later that day, somebody called and said they were working, but they didn't have a permit because they never applied for one. So John asked me to go by. I did. I visited with the property owner. There was a young man riding a Bobcat. He was working between the lot and the ditch where the drainage goes through in front of the property. And I waved at him. He stopped and I said, "You're going to have to cease until somebody presents a plan and pulls a permit." So I went back and talked to the property owner. She and the contractor were not real happy that they were being stopped. They were being stopped because they were building swales and changing the grade of the lot, which affects the lots on either side. So they filed it on the 6th, the next day. I reviewed it, approved it on the 7th, permit was issued, and they were done. But it was my understanding they were very unhappy at being required to get a permit. So briefly, it speaks to three things. You have specific requirements for landscape on every lot in Kingston Springs. You count the number of trees, the types of shrubs, the types of plants, foundation, that is in your ordinances. Secondarily, you require a grading permit for any disturbing of the land. They stripped out the driveway, all of the grass, several of the trees, and some of the shrubs. So that's why the neighborhood was complaining. So I just wanted you to know why we responded.
Thank you.
Any questions that you guys have? I also reminded them to check with their HOA, since their HOA also controls the landscape on their lot.
All right, the reminders are, Main Street will be closed on Monday, October 31st, and City Hall will be closed on the 11th. And now I guess we need to, have a motion to recess and close session.
I got one more.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I got one more.
Oh, sure.
I forgot to say at the beginning, regarding, Melvin Tidwell, where a bunch of people that all got, vegetables from him throughout the years are kind of putting a lot of canned fruits and vegetables in the box, the community blessing box at Lawrence. So if anybody wants to get some non-perishables, we're kind of trying to stock that up in his honor.
Very good.
So your motion would be to go into recess for attorney client.
Yes. Is there a motion to recess for attorney client? Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.